Okie doke, great. So welcome back to the second panel of the afternoon. I'd like to introduce our panel. I'll just give I'll give you who they are, and then what I'm going to do is do a little bit about Cargo, because we're dealing with two films here, dealing with Sweet Country and Cargo, both nominated for the AFTRS Awards for tomorrow night, and obviously multiple awards in certain categories. So on my far right, Warwick Thornton, director of Sweet Country.
G'day.
On my immediate right and immediate left, Yolanda and Ben, who are joint co-directors, which is something we're going to explore, of Cargo. And on the far left is the producer of Cargo, Kristina. Warwick has to do all the work for his film, right? But that's all right, because he shot it. And did you edit it as well? I thought yesterday.
No, I've never edited my film. That's stupidity.
So we might. I might start. We'll talk. I want to show us a couple of clips first to get us going. So I'll talk. I'll give you a bit of a bio of these people, and then we'll go into some clips. So again, I'll go to my far left. My far left. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Get it right. So Kristina Ceyton produced the critically acclaimed and award-winning psychological thriller The Babadook, that premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival to rave reviews. The film went on to win many Best Film and Best Actress awards, including the 2015 AACTA Award for Best Film, shared with The Water Diviner, which was very strange, as well as the 2014... Yeah, very strange how that worked out. As well as the 2014 New York Critics Award, Circle Award for Best First Film, and receiving a British Independent Film Award nomination. Other producing credits include the award-winning short Small Boxes and The Ground Beneath. Both films have received great international success, winning over 40 awards collectively. The Ground Beneath was shortlisted for nomination for the 2010 Academy Awards as Best Live Action Short.
Boom,
boom. Boom. You got Academy Award nomination?
No,
shortlisted. All right. Short. It's close. It's close. The smell of it. Kristina is developing a select slate of features, including Jennifer Kant's highly anticipated, well, not developing, she's produced, highly anticipated feature film The Nightingale, which, if you haven't seen it, is a pretty extraordinary film and pretty scary, actually. In 2014, Kristina completed a 6-month placement as a top US sales agency and development and production company, Film Nation. Her company, Causeway Film, has also been awarded a Screen Australia Feature and Enterprise Program. On my left is Ben Howling. Ben is obviously the director, one of the directors of Cargo. Ben is a writer, a director and a producer of film and television. In 2013, he and writer Yolanda Ramke conceived and co-directed the viral short film Cargo. In 2016, they adapted it into their first feature length of the same name, Cargo, which was released in 2018, and of course is the first Australian Netflix original feature film. Is that correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, something also we want to talk about. Ben is also known for his work for Jungle as a second unit director.
Directing Attachment.
Directing Attachment. Oh, I got that one wrong. And A Means to an End, which you was the producer. Yeah.
Nobody's seen that. Nobody ever will.
Nobody ever will. Okay, right. Well, just won't talk about those films. On my right is Yolanda, who's a director, a writer, and an actress, and has been nominated for a 2018 ADG Award for her short film Cold Heart, the most important awards. For those who know, I'm head of the Australian Directors Guild. Which she co-directed with Daniel Bain. She's directed the short film Cargo with Ben, as we mentioned before, which of course the feature is based on. She's also been an attachment on Spirited, the TV series, and you were also involved in Jungle as well, as an attachment?
Yeah.
As an attachment,
yeah.
Okay. So what we might do to kick off, and then we'll come back to Warwick, we might just watch a clip of Cargo, just to get us in the mood.
Sunshot.
can give you good medicine.
If you're lucky today, Miss, you will not go.
You can't lose hope.
I know you need to be worried about it, Joanne.
When things get back to normal, it's not going to happen, is it?
I think Noel's on the horizon.
There we go. So, back to the last participant on the table, Warwick Thornton. Warwick's known for a number of films, including the incredibly successful and Causeway Award-winning film Samson and Delilah, but he's directed a whole pile of films, from short films to documentaries, and I'll just give you a taste of some of those. Payback, which is a short, Mimi, Green Bush, The Old Man and the Island, Nana, Samson and Delilah, obviously, Art and Soul, Stranded, The Turning, which he did one of the segments of that, and The Dark Side, which is his own creation, Words with Gods, The Way of the... Is this Nankari? Nunkari. Ancient Eye, We Don't Need a Map, which was at the Sydney Film Festival last year, documentary film.
Opening night.
Opening night, it was indeed. And of course, Sweet Country, which has had awards all around the world and is up for an AFTRS for both Best Director and Best Film tomorrow night, and has already won 2 awards yesterday, Best Cinematography, which you did, and Best Editing, which you didn't do, but you accepted it on their behalf as well. And script as well. So really, I mean, having Warwick here is like having the whole team as well. I just wanted to kick off generally, what we want to explore is really where these films came from. Okay, in terms of story, etc. I might kick off with you, Warwick. Where was the germination of this? Was this a story? Was this a book? Where did it come from, and how did you get involved? Because I know you got the best writing for it as well yesterday.
It was well, it was written by a team, David Tranter and Stephen McGregor, and David Tranter's a sound recordist who I met when I was 6, and for some strange reason I became a camera assistant, he became a boom swinger, and then I became a cinematographer, and he became a sound recordist. And on set you meet a lot of people who say, "I've got a really good idea for a movie," and you go, "Yeah, we'll go away and write it." And 99.9% of the time, you never hear from. They don't write anything. You know what I mean? But David Tranter told me, "I've got a really good idea for a movie about my great grandfather," and I said, "Yeah, we'll go and write it." And then the dickhead came back 6 months later with a script, and I went, "Oh fuck, here we go."
And that's because
how empowering is that? He actually got off his ass and he did it. You know what I mean? He didn't talk shit. He just actually went, "All right, Warwick told me to go and write it, so I did." And that for me is incredibly empowering. We can all talk a lot of bullshit, and it's actually all you need is a pen and a paper, and you can create something amazing. And it's just a fear in yourself. So he did it. And that's amazing. And then from there, and actually it was pretty bad script, but amazing because he did it, And then we got Stephen McGregor in, and McGregor's an amazing writer, helped him sort it out, and then a couple of years later there was this really beautiful script.
And I actually might at that point show you a clip from the film, also to set the scene, now that you've set up where it came from, just to see what those look like. That's okay? I forgot something.
Harry March. Staking on the North Creek station. I need to fix up my truck, Yolanda. I was wondering if you could help me. Where'd you get your black stuff from?
Oh no, we're all equal here. All equal in the eyes of the Lord.
Shut up! You little bastard! You run away, I'll shoot you for desertion. We're gonna catch this murder?
Yes, boss.
When?
Very soon, boss.
Sam's way smarter than we are. All these days we never come within 2 miles of him. What are we sitting out there now? Looking at you. Laughing.
I'm gonna go back.
I know he's here somewhere.
I'm gonna get him.
Sam? Coming for you.
It won't be long.
It won't be long, Sam!
Why did you run, Mr. Kelly? I shot a white fella.
There's two things that shit me about that clip. One, that movie doesn't have any fucking music in it. So why is there music in the trailer? You know what I mean? It's a funny old world where, you know, to sell, to get people bums on seats in cinemas, you know. And I kind of said, well, it's not truth. We're lying to it. We're lying to the audience. They're going to rock up and they're going to think they're going to have a whole score, and there isn't, you know. And I like the film because it has no score. The other thing is that there's a line there that says a film by Warwick Thornton, which is a load of shit. Because I didn't write it. It didn't come from me, you know. How can it be me? How can it be about me? And I spent 6 months trying to get my name, the film by crap, off that. Because for me that's quite embarrassing. Because there's a massive crew and there's so many amazing people I work with who actually teach me and actually look after me and actually make me look good. So how can it be a film by me? Anyway, so there's two weird things that happened. Even just the trailer.
Which is sort of different to Cargo because, I'll get this right, you guys wrote.
You're the creator.
And directed the film. So
Yolanda.
you're the writer of the film. Because always, two directors on a film is always an interesting thing to talk about because you sort of say, oh, so what do you do? Do you do this bit? Do you do this bit? But you're the writer of the film, so you're the creative idea behind it from the beginning. And obviously with the short film, just tell us a bit about that because you sort of started with a short film. Was that a proof of concept, a way of approaching this, or did you both been thinking about this idea, or where did it come from your point of view? Probably start with you.
I would say, I mean, we've very much developed this story together, Ben and I, and that was the case with the short film as well. So it was sort of we kind of have this friendly rivalry about who came up with the original concept of like who had the idea of like the zombie with a baby on its back was kind of the image that sort of sparked it for us. And yeah, we just at that point just wanted to do our version of a story in that zombie genre. It was sort of during the second season of The Walking Dead, and it was sort of like we hadn't reached peak zombie, I think, at that point. Yeah. And yeah, we had a really fortunate run with the short film, and were lucky enough to then be in a position to actually start talking about feature ideas. So to answer your question, it didn't actually start as a proof of concept. It kind of inadvertently became that. And then when we kind of realised that was the case, we sort of felt that there was a lot we hadn't had a chance to explore yet within that world, and to kind of have an opportunity to make a feature film with an Australian setting in that genre was really exciting to us.
Yeah, because it's interesting because The Babadook was a short film, and you were involved with both projects as well. So
well, I wasn't involved in the short. In the Monster Short.
In the Monster Short, right, yeah.
But it was, again, it's the same thing. It wasn't a proof of concept. It was a standalone short film that, Jennifer wanted to make, similar to, I guess, like you guys with the short film. And out of that just grew the idea further.
And so did you contribute to the writing, or was it purely the one of you or whatever? Because in the credits, you're listed as the writer.
Yeah. So I guess because we knew we'd be co-directing it together, it made sense that we sort of develop and shape sort of the direction of the story, and then I went away and wrote the actual screenplay for the material. And but it was very nice for me to kind of have somebody on those days when you do kind of get a bit stuck to be able to go, this is the plot that I've got, what do you think, and kind of bounce things off. So yeah, that was nice. And
so how were you involved then in the writing in terms of how does it work? Because you're working. I mean, you write on your own when you do your own stuff. I assume.
Yeah, you're right.
And how? But how do you work with the writers? I'd be curious, just in those terms, all of you talk about. I mean, obviously you're working together here, but how you work with writers as feature directors, because I mean, Warwick's right. You'll see. Obviously we have a view of as a Directors Guild, a film by, we tend to think it's someone who's created the film from the beginning. And we have our debates with the Writers Guild about, genesis of projects, but it's recognising where the ideas come from, I suppose, is really the key as well. So how hear from you about, what in terms of your part of that writing process?
I really got off pretty easy in terms of the development process with Yolanda kind of did all the grunt work and obviously did all the writing, but we broke the story together. So it's at the start when you get into it, you just want to unpack every idea that you've got and put it all out on the table. And that's kind of what we did. We just kind of threw out everything, every kind of suggestion and idea, and then gradually started pulling away the things that we didn't like, kept the things that we did, until we had a structure or an outline kind of thing. And then it was really kind of like, I stepped away and was fortunate enough I could go and take jobs and get paid when Yolanda kind of went and worked for free to write the script.
Not the whole time, just that first draft.
And when did you come on to the project as a producer? Did they bring you this project, or did you? I mean,
it kind of went around. Like it went to the US and then it came to us. So at the time I was living in LA, and this American producer Russell Ackerman came on board. First to kind of shape the first draft of the script, and he just said, look, we're looking for an Australian partner on this, and I saw the short and I was like, yeah, I really like it, and look forward to reading the script when it's ready, and I fell in love with it straight away. And I think it was at that point that Causeway came on board, and we started getting development money. We submitted to the Gateway LA Script Award, and so it was really from then on that Russell and the American partners stepped away, kind of more hands-on. We became hands-off, and we became the hands-on creative producers on the project, and
And what about you, Warwick, in terms of producers? Because you work with, we did ask, David and Greer couldn't come today, but you work with them quite a bit. Do you, like in this project, did they come on board early?
It's the first time I've worked with David and Greer.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, and it's the first film that I've directed that I haven't written.
Oh, this is the first one you haven't written?
Yeah, I haven't written.
Wow. So it's quite a different experience for you.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I knew that, between David and Stephen, the writers, I knew, because I've been in that same position, that they're that's their baby, and if you walk in as a director and you have all these visions and you have ideas and you want to say really stupid fucking things like, oh, maybe we should start the film at the end, you know what I mean? And just freak. If you're not careful, you just freak the shit out of the writers, and you know what I mean? So it's a really nurturing process of being incredibly positive, but trying to get what you needed to rebuild your vision in that film just as much, So it's a very delicate process.
Do you feel that you've achieved that in this? You feel that's their vision and your vision as well?
Yeah, totally. We on set I can be incredibly annoying to crews and producers in a strange way, because I just make shit up on set. I make the crew go incredibly fast, so that I've got a spare couple of hours, and it's literally a spare couple. You shoot 7 to 8 scenes a day. And I make them go, we go incredibly fast. So I've got another hour up my sleeve for something I want to make up. And, we use an American slating system. So everything's, each slate is aligned to the scene number. So we were making all this stuff up, and there was no scene numbers for them. So they just called them walks, which is my nickname. So it started off with walk 1. And by the end of the film, we got to walk 28. New scenes. And you know what? There's probably about 8 scenes in the film, because the rest were shit. They were terrible. I just made them, you know what I mean? It's like, what were you thinking? You know what I mean? But if you don't shoot it, you can't edit it. It's pretty simple. So that's how I got around it in a strange way. I had ideas, but I didn't want to hurt the writers in a strange way. So I'd just go, oh, well, let's just do another scene. I've got an idea for a scene. So they didn't have to write it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of evil, but
yeah. But you also shoot as well. You shoot it as well.
I didn't have to write it, and I got what I wanted anyway. And a lot of it fell on the floor in the edit suite because it was just crap.
But you shot it as well, so you also had that sort of control of keeping that crew to that sort of pace that you wanted.
Yeah. 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 We shot that in 22 days. It's like a 3-week shoot.
Yeah, in really easy country by the looks of it too.
Yeah, 45 degrees. The Brian Brown got necrosis. He got bitten by a bloody spider, and then his leg went black, and it was chopped off. And then we've got him rolling around in stagnant, dirty water with cow shit in it, and it's like he's a pretty amazing human being.
And with you two, I mean, how you working as directors you're obviously on set directing, but you're the writer. Did you find that was an advantage, or was there difficulties there because you may have had different views of what the film should be, and you might be thinking, no, we got to do this, and you didn't have Warwick's WOC system in place, so you couldn't do these extra things. How did that work with you two? How did you work as a creative team? I'm always fascinated by two directors.
Also, we
and there's a
didn't
lot
have
of
an hour
brothers.
up our sleeve.
There's a lot of brothers and that sort of stuff, but sisters, but I'm sorry. Tell me a bit about that. How did that work?
I think the advantage of us having two directors is you obviously, and because we broke the story and developed it together, you're talking a lot from the get-go kind of thing, and so even when in the early incarnations when you're just talking about descriptors of a scene, you could still be kind of describing it with the kind of vision that you want for framing, composition, or edit or whatever. So that stuff kind of works its way out throughout, because it was a long development process, 3 or 4 years. Okay. And then you get into pre, and then by pre, then you start getting your final locations and all that stuff filters into the same kind of as we're storyboarding throughout that pre-process. So by the time we kind of hit the ground, we kind of know what we want. We've been talking with Jeff Simpson and everyone else involved, and then it just becomes that thing of Yolanda's got an acting background and also as a writer, so it was kind of I was happy to let her take the lead in terms of giving direction and stuff on performance. But then if you get to a take and you kind of want to see if either one of us wanted to see a slightly different kind of angle or edge on it, we just ask for it and kind of get it. But for the most part, we already had everything sorted out. Okay, and of course you've done the short film together, so in a way, even though it's not a proof of concept, you've sort of done a bit of the work to start off with as well, knowing what you want to create. Did that help as well? The fact that you'd already done that short film, it just made it a bit easier to move forward with this and know what you were trying to make, or not?
I think on a tonal level, yeah, because I think we definitely knew that we wanted to kind of stay true to sort of what the heart of what that short was when we were expanding it. But, to be really honest, of course, the transition from a short to a feature is huge. It was a huge transition. So, I guess for us with the short film, we worked with two friends of ours who co-produced the short with us, and we shot it in 2 days on a weekend. We had one camera, we had maybe 10 people in the crew, and it was very kind of run and gun, and we could be really flexible. And then, you find yourself on a feature, and it's wonderful because you have more money and you have more toys and you have this sort of bigger canvas to work with. But what you also are navigating then is sort of, it's really bad metaphor, but it's the difference between having a little speedboat that you can kind of pivot and go do what you need to do versus having this massive cruise liner. And then when you're trying to, work on the fly or make decisions, it's sort of just, it's a much bigger deal to try and turn that ship around, I think. So yeah, just getting an understanding for the differences and between those two kind of formats was really interesting for us.
Warwick, did you have that transition when you're going from shorts to making a first feature? Yeah. Or did you feel it was just easy, or was really fucking hard?
Well, I'm a cinematographer, so I shot Radiance and all sorts.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. All the other.
Before I started, I was complete. I didn't want to direct. I just wanted to shoot, and directing was sort of kind of forced upon me, and I went into it screaming and kicking because it's incredibly hard work. Whereas the DPs, we're just wankers, and we're slight rock stars, and we're all just totally awesome. You know what I mean? And we have a great old time. You know what I mean? Whereas the director has to pull their finger out of their ass and actually keep this train running. As much as we either love him or hate him, Woody Allen said, he rocks up on a set at 5 a.m. with all these dreams, and then 7 trucks of compromise rock up. And that's feature filmmaking,
That's true. That's absolutely true. And in terms of this was your first, for you guys, it was your first feature as well. what was the number of days? Sorry, just quickly, because I'm Warwick saying 22 days for Sweet Country. How many days were you shooting for Cargo?
I think we wanted 8 weeks. We got 6, and then I think
so
it
about
was
30 days.
Six.
But you might have got smashed by one of the wettest years on record, didn't you?
That's right.
Yeah, we did.
So we had it was 100 weather storm in South Australia. There was state emergency, blackouts throughout the state. So it was really challenging. And this is also for a first feature, it's very challenging. It's got babies in every scene, a 12-year-old, 11-year-old girl. It's got prosthetics. It's got animals. It's got and out in the sticks, in the middle of nowhere. So it was a hard.
And we wrote it, so we've only got ourselves to blame for that.
It is. It was interesting though, because it was our first, so we have no real prior experience in terms of gauging timeline and that. But what we did have as a measuring stick was. So we finished filming, and then most of our crew actually kind of jumped off and then moved on to Warwick's film. Yeah. So he shot after us and then shot a lot faster than us. And then we ended up posting in the same post house here in Sydney. And he started 4 or 5 weeks after us and finished probably 10 weeks before us again. So that was our kind of introduction to this is how quickly you make a film.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. We had blue skies the whole time.
Well, and that's interesting because I think when I saw your film at the Adelaide Festival last year, and I commented to Sam, one of the other producers, was what an extraordinary crew. I mean, in terms of for first filmmakers, you had the best cinematographers, I looked at the list and I thought, holy shit, this is the A crew. And obviously they moved to yours, they've moved on. And I thought, how did you get this? Because really, first-time filmmakers, I'm sorry, you're only supposed to have $1.5 million and it's got to be, your best mates and all that sort of stuff. But really, you actually got an opportunity to work with some of the best people in our business in the country as well. That's probably a question for you.
I think it's also the script demanded a certain budget. I don't think you could have done it for no money, and then we also had Martin Freeman in the lead role.
Well, that's the next one.
Famous UK actor who we had to bring over, and he demanded a certain amount of support and but I think it's just logistics. I think we were always trying to shave it down, and we had to lose scenes, which is not ideal even during the shoot. I think where we just look, we just can't achieve this. It's just very, very, it was a very hard shoot, to get through. So, but I think in terms of a budget, it was tight, but it demanded it in terms of VFX and prosthetics and SFX, and so.
Let's talk a bit about that casting, because clearly, both shows have got extraordinary casts. Up for awards, etc. The question I think always asked is, how did you get Martin Freeman? Because first-time filmmakers, doing a show in South Australia, I don't know what the budget was, and obviously there was money there for him, but again, how did you get him to come and do this film?
It was kind of the conventional way. The Causeway girls sent the script to his reps, and we kind of waited to hear what the feedback would be, and his agent really liked it for him, but she sort of had given us the heads up that he didn't typically gravitate towards genre pieces, particularly zombie films, so we kind of weren't holding our breath. And so when it came back that he really liked it and wanted to have a conversation, we were kind of pretty floored by that, actually. And so then it just became this hilarious kind of game of phone tag of trying to get a hold of him and actually talk a little bit about the project. And then he was attached for about 6 months, I think, and it was during the time that we were on Jungle doing our attachment, and we were maybe 2-3 months out from the proposed shooting dates that we actually lost him because of a schedule conflict. So it's this kind of really heartbreaking month of thinking that this vision of the film that we'd had for 6 months, and that we were sort of.
So he was, in your minds, he was
he was the guy.
Locked in. He's the character. He's the guy we wanted to do that.
Yeah,
role.
And we'd done, I'd done subsequent passes on the script with that in mind, and it just starts to subconsciously work its way into the way that you're kind of crafting that character. So that was a real blow, and we just got so fortunate that that something opened up and we were able to. To have him jump back on board, but the trade-off for that was that we then had to shoot a little sooner than we'd intended and for less time than we intended. So you're sort of weighing up, those two things, and I think we made the right choice. But yeah, it's a kind of
tricky.
For orders.
But in terms of getting him on board, I think it helped that we had the short film to begin with, which was it wasn't made as a proof of concept, but it served as a proof of concept in that example. But then most importantly, we also had Kristina and Causeway on board, which is like a great kind of sense of validation with Bob Bouducas behind, and also your track record working with a first-time director. So it kind of, we were first-time directors, but it already felt like we're in very kind of safe hands.
That support.
But I think he really did love the script. So I think in the end it's really about the story and the script, and that he fell in love with it, and he didn't see it as a genre film. He saw it as a father-daughter story, and what that means to be faced with.
And Warwick, you've also had some pretty high-powered actors, but you also had some new actors. How did you approach the casting of that particular film? Did you already have a very clear mind? These are the guys I need to do this film, or did you really open up about it to anyone?
Obviously, a good story will always attract an A-list crew or an A-list cast, and not necessarily they're the right people for that story. The interesting one is Tom Cruise, and that Max Brenner, is it a chocolate company?
Jack Reacher?
Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jack Reacher, yeah.
He's not doing it anymore because he's too short. And that's the fuck, we got Tom Cruise, awesome! And it's like, actually, he's wrong for the character. So they had to go, Tom's not doing it anymore because actually the character is 6 foot tall and 120 kilos, in the books. And so it's just like, they obviously made billions, but sometimes, is that right for your story? We've got Tom Cruise, but actually Tom Cruise is the wrong person for the actual character.
Totally
so,
agree.
and, Brian's an old friend, so it's like, ring up, I got a script, Brian, you can come fucking work on it, mate? Yeah, all right. What are you playing? Oh, you're playing a copper. Oh, typical. And can you tell Sam to pull his finger out of his ass and come along with you? Like that kind of stuff, So it's kind of like, high-vis tradie bar talk, about how about a film in a way, and then and obviously the film is set in Central Australia, so I wanted the cast to be obviously from Central Australia because the history of the people in this film is their history just as much as David Tranter's is his great-grandfather's story, but all Aboriginal people, all Aboriginal families in Central Australia have basically gone through this same bullshit, So I wanted to cast from Alice Springs, and I wanted it to be the language to be Aranda, which is one of the key 4 languages in Central Australia. Most people can speak about 3 different languages, so they're all sort of fluent a bit in Aranda, and that's kind of how that started, And Natasha and Hamilton had been on a short film before, but it's interesting when it's not like. It's a strange world where you go, do you want to be in a film? And a lot of people go, no. You want to be a star in a major motion picture? No. You know what I mean? So it's a funny old world of, sort of casting our mob,
So you don't not sort of auditioning, you're really just trying to find the right person for the role and then get an agreement that they'll do it. Is that one way of approaching it?
And because I'm a cinematographer, it's all visual. It all starts with the look, And I always say there's no such thing as bad actors, there's just bad directors, because you shouldn't have fucking cast them in the first place. You know what I mean? It all boils down to the director. You know what I mean? You put someone who's wrong for the role in there. Don't blame them that they can't do the role. Blame yourself. That's really important to me. So, but I'm a visual person, so it starts with what they look like, and I go, shit, they look just like the character. And then they have to speak, and then suddenly they've got a really squeaky voice. You go, oh, damn, you know what I mean? And then you slowly go through that process, and it's when you're directing, with first-time actors, it's about confidence. It's about you're pushing them in front of that camera. The most scariest place in the world. You've hidden behind the camera because you're too shit scared to stand in front of the camera. You know what I mean? You want to hide behind the camera, but now you're thrusting all these people who've never probably wanted to act in front of the camera, and it's about you making them feel really comfortable and empowering them more than finding the character. Everyone's lived, loved, and lied, so they could find that, but it's just giving them the empowerment to actually stand in front of the camera, and that's really important for me as a director.
If anyone wants to come in at this point for questions, we'll sort of open the floor a bit. So if you've got a question, put your hand up. We've got a microphone somewhere around here. you want to ask these guys at all? And in terms of both of you, I mean, both films are shot. I mean, it's interesting, a contrasting thing. When you shot, you had enormous difficulties with the natural environment to actually get the film, whereas, as you said, blue skies, although 45 degrees, so it was a bit hotter as well. How did you find that in terms of that challenge for you guys, and obviously for you, Kristina, of actually achieving the film? I mean, did you have to make a lot of compromises to get to those end number of days, or did you, in terms of you as the directors and the creators and the thing, what did you have to do to accommodate those changes as you were shooting? And did you? Maybe you didn't. Maybe it was all fine.
Well, I think in terms of the weather, somehow we managed to only lose a half day. Isn't that right? Like, I don't know how, but it was... So I was only on set for half of the shoot, and Sam was on the shoot for the whole time. But it's kind of just, you know, like you get stuck and, I don't know, your location's overflown, and like there was one scene where we were shooting in this tunnel and we were putting Anthony Hayes was going to go up in flames, and we were like there for, and that was the day that state emergency police were rocking up, and you're like, you have to leave, you have to go home, everyone has to leave, and we're like, just give us 5 minutes to put this man on fire. And he's and they're like, are you like crazy people are? And so we just went ahead, and somehow you just have to have clever scheduling and clever kind of just thinking on your feet and kind of just trying to get what you can. I mean, I think the big challenge is it was such a complex script in many ways that a lot of changes we just had to go, how do we tell that same story in a simpler way, or it was kind of something. And the good thing is that you guys were together and you were able to also think on your feet and support each other on a story level with Sam and me there to kind of go, okay, how can we solve this to protect the story, but find a way that we can still, shoot it in the time that we have and make sense of it all. So and it was challenging. It was challenging on so many levels. But
how in terms of all of you, when you work with actors, in terms of the story, okay, we were talking in the session before and we were talking about the fact that was a real event and they had the real people on set, which was quite bizarre, watching the people playing them. And there was an enormous collaboration with the actors in terms of a contribution to the script. How did you feel? I mean, maybe start with you, Warwick. What sort of contribution did you think did they make to change the script? Or is that the sort of director you are? You're open to that, or are you really trying to stick to what you think is the way to go here?
It's interesting because if the characters are built in the script, and then what happens is you get someone like Sam Neill who's actually playing a bit part really in the film. And before Sam came on, it was actually a much smaller role. But now that it's Sam, we did a bit more work on that character to build him up. The funny thing is that because Sam and Brian are really old friends, and they're old bastards, and they just tease the shit out of each other. They completely set me up, So Sam rang me and says, because Brian came along, and then so we put a little bit more work into Brian. He was a lot more racist in the original script, and it's not just black and white. You know what I mean? There's shades of grey in every human, in a way. So we tried to get more shades of grey into that character. And when we did that, a draft was bloody released with all the Brian stuff being written, but none of the Sam's character being written. So suddenly Sam was getting written out in a strange way by Brian. Because we'd only worked on Brian's character, it looked like we'd made massive amounts of work on Brian's character and fuck all on Sam's. So Sam rings me, but he knows that we're going to do a pass for Sam's character as well. Rings me and goes, fucking Brian Brown, he's bloody written me out of another fucking film. He knew, and I just shit myself. I was like, oh my God, what am I getting into? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he does this on every bloody film. But he knew we were doing a draft. He just knew that it was the perfect opportunity to take the piss out of me. And he did. I went pale. I was said, I don't care. Don't. When you've got some big names on set, you got to make sure that the script is seriously, if you're going to do another pass, seriously perfect on everyone's behalf before you go and hand the bastard over. Yeah.
And is that what happened with you guys? Because you said you were tailoring the script very much to your lead character, your lead actor, And when it came to it, was he also, he wasn't doing Brian Brown.
No.
He wasn't getting rid of the script, I'm sure. But was he, how much of input was he pushing into it to try and, was that something, was that a challenge for you, or was he fine? He just did what you told him to do?
We had a really great, like, he was cheeky, but not that cheeky, thankfully. And our cast were super, super lovely humans, which is a nice, also a really nice thing to have on your first feature. For us, it was just a lot of talking during that final week of pre, where we were sort of, we didn't rehearse with our cast aside from Simone, who plays Toomey in the film, who was a newcomer. So, there was a little bit of sort of workshopping that we wanted to do with her. But the other guys were, they're very accomplished, and really it was much more a case of just sort of talking through the material and talking through the tone of the film, and they get it, they got it, they knew what we were trying to do, and then it was just about doing it.
Okay, so you didn't have any major rewrites happening on
the
on the set by actors wanting to actually change it. Warwick, you're smiling. You're going to tell us something?
No, they didn't want to change it. We just thought that there was a better opportunity to give them better characters. You know what I mean? It wasn't them going, we want more. It was us going, fuck, we've got you. We should give you more. Yeah.
I think with Martin too, he did have some. You remember, did have some changes. He had big issues like coming in contact with, like innards, and I guess he's
because he's a big animal rights.
He's a big,
right.
So there was kind of some rewriting on, in some of the scenes, and I think he always brought up things that didn't sound absolutely true to him. So he's a true artist, and really, for him, he didn't perform until it felt really right and truthful to him. So I think on that level he collaborated with you.
Absolutely, but not in a way that
but not changing the script. It was more.
Well, a good actor will smell the bullshit and actually say,
like,
"Come on, this isn't.
Really
You've got to be kidding about this."
Yeah.
So I mean, a really good actor who actually knows the truth of the story and the truth of what they're trying to do as a character would obviously, and that's what you want, I suppose, in a film.
They'll try and out-research you.
They're trying to out-research you.
They'll try and out-research. They know everything about everything by the time they rock up on set. And you're running crews, you're running, you're trying to teach the caterer to cook as well as, you know what I mean? And they rock up and they go, oh no, in 1926 that penny wasn't out. It was. Thanks for that.
Any questions from the audience? I'm throwing back to you if you want to jump in. Up the back there. Have we got a microphone? Yep, great, thank you.
Hey, I was just wondering about this on-the-fly shooting, and maybe whether you can step us through like a scenario. Like, how do you have your actors saying lines and whatnot? Because you said some of it ended up in the film. Like, are you saying, you say this, you say that, or are you letting them, are they improvising? Like, how does it happen?
You get to a point with the characters, you try not to do it in the first couple of days, because everyone will freak out. The first will have 10 cold sores by because you're just completely screwing with the schedule. But when the comfortability comes, it's like, let's do a scene where you ask her out, or let's do a scene where you throw rocks at her, or you know what I mean. And it just comes naturally in that way. The biggest one was in Sweet Country. There's a scene where Brian's character Fletcher comes back, and there's a picture show, which is Soto, amazing actors up there who plays the picture man, and they're playing Ned Kelly, the adventures of Ned Kelly, the first feature film made ever, which happened here in Australia, and and for me, that whole scene's not written. It's never been written, but that one took a little while to do because we had to get permission for the script, for the picture. We had to go and find a video projector, all that kind of crap. So it was like, poor old producers had a day to go to National Film and Sound Archive and ring them and get permission to actually do that scene, because there's no point shooting that scene without copyright to the original movie. And in a strange way, because all these people were jeering and happy for this murderer called Ned Kelly, who ironically today would be an ice head stealing from 7-Elevens, but for some reason we propped this guy up as sorry, is someone doing a Ned Kelly? I don't know. Anyway.
There is someone. They're not here. I don't
think
know.
I think there's about 7 more Ned Kelly movies being made this year. Anyway, and it's kind of like, so this sort of national symbol, Ned Kelly, and, you know, he murdered some policemen, and we still prop him up. But then suddenly there's this Sam Kelly, this black guy, who shot a person in self-defence, and they all want to kill him, you know what I mean? So it's the irony of the Australian psyche in that. And that scene wasn't written. And I had that idea. And so it's not really on the fly. That wasn't really on the fly because it had a day to find, poor producer had a day to find all the crap that I needed to make that scene. And, you know, Soto was trying to find a role for Soto. I was like, hey, you can be the picture man, you know what I mean? All that kind of, you know. And so, but it's just you when you get to a point where everyone's really comfortable and you've got to be really empowered by that scene. You kind of just don't make it up in that afternoon. You've had a couple of beers the night before and you've gone, well, what can I try and do tomorrow? If we work hard enough, we get some spare time, what can I do tomorrow that I can scare the shit out of the first AD in the morning, you know what I mean? So we're going hard today because I've got this crazy scene where we, someone does this and someone does that. And so, but it comes to, it's not like, oh, we've got time, I'll make some shit up. It's like, there's a day or two of thinking about it before I'll, freak everyone out, you know. So there is a lot of there's process and a bit of thought to the madness and all of that. Yeah.
Do you do a lot of takes? I mean, just curious because you said you shot quite quickly.
No, if I do 5 takes, I go right, and if I do 5 takes and there is something we want to do a 6 because it's not working. I've set up the wrong camera angle. You know what I mean? I generally go like let's do the same scene, but I'll move the camera around and look for a different angle on the same thing, you know. Yeah. I don't have the patience, you know what I mean? It's 5 takes, it's like, right, this is fucked. There's something wrong with it. Let's not try and do any more takes because there's something wrong, you know. For me, it ain't gonna come. So let's change the scene, let's work out what the problem is, move the camera, get a different angle, you know, make the actor come through the window rather than the door. I don't know, you know. Let's just try something different because it isn't working, and I'm not going to waste any more film or crew's time and actor's energy on something that I know it's not working. If after 5 takes it's not working, we've got a problem. We need to fix it. And that whole kind of 100 takes later. Oh, fuck that! That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Can I just sneak a little second part of the question? I'm really interested in working with like new actors or non-actors with trained actors. So in that scenario then, something you've thought of the night before with a beer or however, how then are they being led? Are they being led by you? How are you giving them the confidence to do it?
But it's a negotiation because they are the character. That actor, whether they're first-time actors or they've made 100 films, they are that character. So you're literally you're not going up to the actor, you're going up to the character. You're not talking to an actor, you're talking to the character. Because you're making stuff up, so they have to be in the character to give you kind of what you need if it's not written or it's not developed in that way. If it's an idea that you've had the night before with a beer, you go up to Brian Brown, but I'm not going up to Brian Brown, I'm going up to Fletcher, the character he plays, and I go, hey mate, what would happen if this happened and this happened and this happened? And he, as the character, would go, well, I'd do this and I'd do this and I'd do this, and it's like, hey, let's shoot that. That'd be fun. You know what I mean? So I'm not asking Brian, I'm asking Fletcher, the character, because in that role, he knows what he would do much more than what I would do as a director. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience at this stage? Yep, down there, down here.
I can just say it. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
but can they?
We can yell it out.
Oh, it's all right. She'll get. There you go.
Just a question for Yolanda.
Are you recording this? No one told me you were recording that.
Just your transition, I guess, from being an actor, writer, director, just that process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
collaboration, however you want to.
Yeah, in terms of
just going from, I guess most people start out in one direction. So for you, you've kind of moved around. So just curious to know that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel a bit cheeky calling myself an actor actually, because I really have only kind of done it on my own projects and collaborating with friends. And for me, that was sort of the path that I thought I wanted to pursue. I was quite set on that idea, but I had always always written, and I'd always been interested in the storytelling component of it as well. And so initially I'd got into short filmmaking, as I think a lot of actors kind of do, to kind of create work for yourself and roles for yourself. And gradually I just became less interested in being in the things and just wanted to sort of tell stories. And that was what sort of took off first. And I was more than happy to be on that train. So yeah, but I mean, if that's sort of something that you're interested in terms of the balance, I mean, I think there's no better kind of training in a way for a director and for a writer, because as an actor you're thinking about how to break down a script, and I think that informs how you write characters, and I think it in a way maybe allows you to more easily access the different points of view of different characters in the story. And so in my personal experience, I feel like all of those different disciplines have informed one another, and I think you'll be like a more well-rounded storyteller for kind of dipping a toe in all of it.
We've actually run to the end. Oh, no, one question to go. We're sort of finishing up.
Just quickly for Kristina, because it is very current at the moment. It'd be interesting if you could just quickly tell us how the Netflix deal came about. You know, was it before or after Martin Freeman came on board? Was it, it'd be interesting to know. And it was an unusual thing for an Australian production to have that sort of theatrical release here, and Netflix overseas.
Yeah, it wasn't financed with Netflix originally. We shot the film and then cut a trailer, so basically wrapped, and then a month later it was AFM, so we cut a 3-minute promo reel, and they saw the promo at AFM through our sales agent Bankside, and they really loved it, and then read the script and really loved that, and then made an offer. And we kind of toyed with the idea, how do we make that work? And obviously, at that point in time, we're like, you always, as filmmakers, we're very much into wanting to have a theatrical release and giving that up, but the offer was really good, and we also felt that it was for Cargo in particular, a natural transition, because it was such a sensation on the internet. It had, for 15 million views by then, and so it kind of felt like it was an opportunity for the film to be seen by millions and millions of people, and I think it's also the kind of film that's, maybe has a good festival trajectory, possibility, but it was kind of, we felt like it was the right thing for it. So they came on, in post-production, and they also carved out the ANZ solely because in order for us to keep the producer offset. So that was partly, so we got sort of the best of both worlds. We got the theatrical release here, which was a huge success, and no, but we got a theatrical release here, and then we also got to go to Tribeca and got the festival release in America, and following that, the Netflix release internationally. So it was a really great experience. They're really great partners.
Yeah, well, I had the reverse of that. In Toronto, Netflix came to me with an undisclosed amount of money, and I said no in some sort of very Aussie words. But I had something up my sleeve. I'd already known that this was the day before the awards ceremony in Toronto, so I'd already known that, and the awards do this. They just give you a little heads up. Don't go home now. You know what I mean? Don't fly back to Australia yet. And that's kind of generally you've won. And the only thing I was up for was the best film platform, blah blah blah. So I kind of had that up my sleeve. So the amount of money would have meant that the film would have had been shut down from cinematic release worldwide. It was huge, ridiculous. You know what I mean? Buy a fucking house for that kind of money. And I said no. You know what I mean? Because for me, it was there's bigger deals than cash, and it's dreams and love and storytelling and we're recording.
No, but I completely agree. I think you really have to make that decision based on what film courses. It is. And
totally.
Yeah, how you feel about the
all my movies will be on Netflix when I'm dead.
And on that note, thank our panel for their wonderful thing today. Thank you.